Good. Welcome to the summit. Let's kick this off. We have a pretty full and we hope very interesting program. Welcome all. For those of you, we actually did some counting. We have more new people than old. That's the wrong phrase. We have more people that are here for the first time than repeat visitors. This is what I should say. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Berthold. I'm one of the founders of KNIME. I already got first complaints by Frank over there who said, this is totally misnamed. This is not a spring summit. It's snowing. But we did that on purpose because last year we had 3 people who we actually caught outside during normal sessions. So we made sure the weather will keep you inside this time. So this is done on purpose. OK, what I want to do in the first 20 minutes or so, I figured we'll spend a bit of time doing a brief look back in time on what the last year did to us. It was a very exciting year for KNIME, as you undoubtedly know. But then I wanted to spend the majority of the time talking a little bit about trends that we've seen popping up in the data science space in general, and that we believe are also going to impact this year and the years to come. And then I have a few slides just for logistics about the summit itself. And I did want to try to see if during my talk, I can walk all the way down here and back. We'll see if that works. This is pretty cool. OK, small subset. Obviously, the most important part at KNIME is the new people. In the last 12 months, we have brought on board a number of people. If you're one of the minority that have been to previous summits, usually that list has been very short. We sort of hired 3, 4 new people, and I was able to introduce them all in person and make stupid jokes about them. We can't really do that anymore. There's a lot of people that we brought on board. What do data miners do if they have too much data? They start segmenting them, right? So I did some not really KNIME segmentation on these people, and I'll try to introduce them that way. So we have a couple of people that possess social skills. So those are the people that are part of our customer care team. First and foremost, the first person we brought on board after we raised funding in March of last year is Jim Falgu. All of the new people should be lined up against the wall. That's also badly phrased, but anyway. Back there at the end of the room, Jim has been our man on the ground in the Austin office. He is the head of barbecue, he's the head of HR, he's the head of legal in the US, he's the head of office space searches. Help him with that. It's a real pain these days to find office space in Austin. And he's also somebody we have collaborated with for many, many years while he was working at Actian, formerly Pervasive. So we've known him very well. Great guy. Introduce yourself to him if you meet him. Then we brought Martin Pfannenschmidt, joined the Berlin team. Jeff is number 2 in Austin. He's not here today. I think he has to watch his 2 dogs back in Austin. And Scott Fincher recently joined KNIME, the Austin team as well. Obviously, we're also adding to our development team. We have a few new guys. We realized that we had nobody from Australia, so we hired Renee to join our server team. Martin Horn is from my university group. He's sort of doing part-time. He's working on what you'll see later in the What's Cooking session under the remote control. Mareike joined the big data team in Berlin as well. Pascal Lee, we brought him in from Paris because the Berlin food is so much better. Tobias, I don't even try to pronounce his middle name, Urhaug, has also joined the Berlin development team. Mark Ortman is from a colleague of mine at the University of Constance. He knows everything about graphs, nodes 3 or less. If you have any problems with your networks with 3 or less nodes, talk to him. He can do magic with that stuff. And then Moritz Heine, a former intern, who just starting March 1st signed a real contract, is now also part of the development team in Constance. Then we have one person. You'll see her picture later. Katrin Melcher joined our education evangelism team. She's the person behind these online courses that we recently launched. We have 2 chemists that joined the life science team, Gianni and Daria. Daria already actually has been to the KNIME summits before, so she knows KNIME in and out, and Gianni by now as well. Then we have 2 speakers. Those are actually the first 2 people in our marketing team, Haley and Malika. Malika joined and then instantly had a baby, so now she's on leave for a while, but Haley is here. You can meet her as well. And then obviously we need to start. At some point in time, you realize not everybody can do everything, so you need to start hiring people that help you keep the organization itself running. So the kind of the good fairies behind the scenes. And that's Peter Burger, who is responsible for the IT. organization. Inside KNIME, Sebastian Gerau is the man. He's doing DevOps. I still don't really know what DevOps means, but he makes sure all of our development setup does work properly. And then, not quite yet joined, but still here anyway, she's joining April 1st, Christiane Kalfas. She's the very first person where I thought I don't want to address her by her first name. It would be so cool to have someone on the team that you could call Knallfass all the time. That's a joke that only works for the Germans. Anyway, Christiane, she's going to be responsible for events starting April 1st, but she's already here to sort of sniff the air. Who else do we have? We have somebody, we finally have a person that has taste. Johannes Schweig joined us as a UX engineer. He's going to be, if you in like a year from now don't like something, the way it looks and feels and the way it interacts with you, it's all his fault. And then obviously now you're all sitting there, it's like, man, they're not, don't they have any salespeople? We do. So we brought on board one salesperson, Benjamin Hemminger. But he's the nicest salesperson ever. Right? So talk to him, meet him, he's a really great guy. He's going to make sure that our sales operation stays on track as well. So those are all of the new people, all in the back of the room over here. Meet them, talk to them. We kind of in 2017 and the beginning of 18 almost doubled our team. Welcome, guys. Okay, there's one more person that's worth highlighting. We managed to, now that we have a real board, right? I mean, last year you met Mario and Vasim from Invus, our investors that are part of the board. And the board also has 2 independent seats. One of those seats we recently filled with Tom Eriksson, who is also around. Where's Tom? All the way over there. So if you don't know who Tom is, you Google him, and then you realize he's either a model or is a professional wrestler. The professional wrestler doesn't even know how to spell his name. But then you dig a little, it's actually, the nice thing is he's there, right, over here. And the interesting part about Tom, I mean, the CV is long, right? I could spend an hour talking about his achievements and stuff that he's done in the past. For us, very relevant, lots of expertise there. But what he has done, he led Acquia, an open source company, from very, very small to very, very big. Let's just say it like that. And that's obviously something, a type of expertise that helps us tremendously. In many ways, he can just give us advice. And sometimes it's just super helpful to be able to say, you know, you're thinking about doing this. And then he looks at you and says, I know that's a good idea. It seems like a good idea. That's not going to work for these and these reasons. So just helping us avoid making some mistakes is super helpful. And after this talk, I'll find out why he has pink flamingos on his homepage on LinkedIn. That's a bit puzzling. Anyway, on the technology side, lots of cool stuff happened as well. We have continued on the integration part. Obviously, the deploying a lot of these things in more detail. You'll see and hear about that during the What's New and What's Cooking session. We have deep learning integrations. We have Google Sheet integrations. You can now also analyze audio and speech. And one of my personal highlights is the H2O integration that about a year ago we started, where everybody thought, why do we need an H2O integration? And I think that will become a lot clearer in the next couple of hours. There's Dean, got his own personal node. Where's Dean over here? Because he kept using the JavaScript node for everything. So he said, OK, you're going to get your multi-column math node finally. The problem is, of course, you give everybody here knows Dean. You give him the little finger, he wants everything. Now he starts nagging, he wants more nodes and more. We'll see. Once every 3 releases or so, there's going to be a Dean node. We have completely revised our date and time support. That's something you won't really notice at first glance, but if you do anything in different time zones, you'll very much appreciate that. We have done a lot of work on the JavaScript views. This goes hand in hand with our push for guided analytics. You'll hear a lot of that about that over the next couple of days. And you see some of those. Tons of improvements under the hood, of course, right? The Python integration, we have completely rehauled that, so that should be much faster. Same goes for the logistic regression rewrite. And obviously, a lot of that work on the big data extensions has continued. We are now at over 2,000 nodes. Nodes that we write or maintain, wrappers around other open source libraries. And then there's, of course, still tons of nodes, hundreds of nodes from the partners and from the community. Other highlights. other stuff. As I mentioned, we have an office in Austin. Jim, Jeff, Scott are already there on the ground, so to speak. The two thingies that we have 2 offers out to really, really great people, so I'm hoping they will sign those in the next couple of weeks and be there at the next summit in a year, or in fall in Austin, obviously, and we continue hiring in Austin anyway. We have completely, well, not really completely changed. We have tremendously simplified this product setup. It started to get really confusing with all of these strange proprietary extensions and big data and what was what. Nobody really understood how that worked. So now it's super easy. There's the open source analytics platform for everything you want to do around data science, and then there's the KNIME server for all of the collaboration, automation, deployment. So as soon as it concerns more people that want to work together, or you want to give access to data science to others, that's when the commercial product, the KNIME server, comes in. So it's really only 2 different things. There's an open source analytics platform and a KNIME server. So hopefully that makes some of these conversations a lot easier. Quoting Gardner, even Gardner is now starting to understand the importance of open source. So we had actually pretty interesting conversations with those guys during the last briefing. Talking about Gardner. As most of you know, they keep renaming their Magic Quadrant. Now it's called the Magic Quadrant for Data Science and Machine Learning Platforms. It was released 2 weeks ago. Who here saw the Magic Quadrant already? That's not very good. So this is not much of a surprise, but anyway, actually it was a pretty nice surprise for us. If you can't see it, we are up there. Pretty nice corner. Actually, you should applaud yourself. Gardner is one of these companies. When they talk to us, they grill us for some strange reason. They just don't believe only us or our marketing efforts. Not that we have a lot of marketing, but they talk a lot to references. They ask references to fill out extensive questionnaires, and then they even call some of these references for 1-hour phone interviews. And the feedback that we've been getting from Gardner for the last couple of years was always, your references are just great. So they have to really grill them to get anything, even remotely, somewhat not positive, right? So thanks to all of you who invest the time, and also the ones that aren't here today, invest the time to sort of talk about KNIME with Gardner. That has been super, super valuable for us. The interesting part is, of course, H2O in there. You wonder who that is. That's the library I mentioned before. They do really awesome, high-performance machine learning libraries. And if you look at the tweet by when that stuff came out and was discussed on social media, this is Shri from H2O. He's the CEO. And he made the point that I'm making as well, right? This is not competition, right? They have a really awesome library, and we have an integration with H2O. So this is really sort of 2 leaders playing together. It's a very nice recognition there as well. Good. So much for tons more stuff happened in 2017. You'll see a lot more about the technology and the types of things that we added in the following 2 hours. And then also we started to sprinkle more of these KNIME in action talks into the regular program, where you see some of the more sort of use cases of sort of some of our newer technology in action throughout the regular program. Okay, some of the trends that we keep seeing, some more boring, some more interesting. Deep learning is obviously still up there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that because I did that last year. I still think that Mike Gualtieri's sort of summary article about that, he's from Forrester, is actually right to the point. Right? The problem really is that the way most people talk about deep learning is sort of this pure AI, where people think, yeah, there's going to be this magic intelligence, it solves all of our problems the way we would. That's utter nonsense, right? Because the only thing that you can build with deep learning is what he calls pragmatic AI, which really only solves very particular problems that a human could potentially also solve, potentially much faster and more efficient. That's absolutely true, for instance, for image recognition or for some speech recognition tasks, right? But it's not sort of the wonder weapon that solves all of the problems. We have integrations for that, so you can reach out to deep learning algorithms from within KNIME, but don't expect to solve all of the problems. For me, I mean, that's probably, I guess, the point in time when you realize you get old. I really have déjà vus, right? I did neural network research 20, 25 years ago, and all of that hype seems exactly the same, right? And right now we're sort of at the top, and it's already starting to decline. People starting to realize that deep learning does not solve all of the problems. Another trend that's out there, we have a talk on, you see on Thursday morning, I think there's an image mining talk using some of the deep learning integrations, so you'll see all that stuff in action there. Another big trend is obviously automation. We started talking, if you remember last year's Phil show on Wednesday evening, late afternoon, that was about model factories, so this fits in very nicely. And we have another talk about that today at 2 o'clock. Greg is going to talk about the monster model factory, actually applying that to real data. One word of warning, I think there are molecules in that talk, but if I'm not mistaken, they will show up at the very, very end. So don't be scared. This is mostly not about molecules. Standardization is a huge thing that pops up in data science a lot more now, especially with the European data protection directives. Somehow being able to govern what people can do with data and also sort of log and protocol what's going on is super important. So we have a talk about that one, KNIME in action, GDPR taking a provocative approach by Phil. This is hopefully the only typo in our agenda, in the printed agenda. This used to be a proactive approach, but if anybody could make last-minute changes to his talk to adapt to a new title, it's Phil. So I'm not worried about that one. So it's a provocative, proactive approach. And then the really interesting thing, personally, I think, sort of with my machine learning research hat on, is all of this push for, call it what you wish, AutoML, driverless AI, intelligent, smart, super, blah, blah, right? Automating all of this machine learning AI process. You don't need humans anymore. Everything happens magically. This is something I wanted to talk a little bit more about today, because I think this is an interesting trend, and it's another one of those very similar to deep learning, where sort of what's being claimed and what people think you can do is slightly overshooting the target. So what can you actually automate in a data science process? If you talk about data science processes, you always go back to CRISP-DM or SEMA or one of these processes. That stuff just doesn't change, right? In the end, anything that you do with data to build predictive models or do some sort of an analysis, you have to follow this kind of cycle in some way or the other. Right? This is about, if you don't understand your business, the question that you want to ask, don't apply data science, right? If you don't really know what's going on in your data, if you don't understand where the data comes from, but the nature of your data, also bad. You need to do some data preparation, you will need to do some modeling, right? If that's logistic regression or random forest or something really bizarre ensemble or deep learning, in the end it's all the same. You need to do some evaluation and then obviously deployment. And deployment people often ignore, but that's almost the most important part. Which of these pieces can we automate? The potential for automation, in my opinion, and I don't think I'm alone there, the business understanding is not automatable. How would you, right? I mean, that's something you need to look at the overall picture. You need to look at that data understanding, same point. Data preparation, there's of course room for automation. I'll dive into that a little bit in a second. Modeling the same. Evaluation to some parts, right? You can automate quality of models, but the fit to a particular business problem is probably something where you still need some sort of a human intervention. You need an expert that actually understands that. Okay, so if you look at KNIME workflow, sort of at a very abstract level, this would be a flow, right? You load your data, you do the cleaning, the transformation, you analyze it, and then maybe you have really two paths. You either just deploy the model automatically, or you do some sort of an exploration. You want to look at the results. This is the pieces that we can automate, really the middle pieces, right? On the one side, we can automate a lot of the stuff on the data pre-processing, data cleaning, right? And sort of in a nutshell, there are really three things that you can do. You can work on the feature selection, try to automate that, do automatic feature selection. We have mechanisms for that in KNIME. You can do also feature construction, right? Building new abstract features out of the ones. In a way, this is what the first couple of layers of a deep neural network do. They do feature construction in a very, very, very basic way. And then, of course, all of the data cleaning, kicking out stuff. That's also something, to a certain extent, you can automate that. And then on the machine learning side, or AI, or whatever you want to call that, automating the analytics. Obviously, all of this parameter optimization, adjusting how many trees you want to build, how many layers, which parameters, learning rates, whatever your model needs. The model selection itself, which one of the 20,000 models that are trained in parallel is the one I want to use, or if you don't want to pick, maybe you just mix them and build a nice ensemble. So the ensemble construction. This is really all that can be automated, right? The issues with automation is the issue that I had 2 years ago with a lot of these black box approaches. It's all the same stuff. It's a one-way avenue, right? The moment you go out and say, I'm going to buy this AutoML package from vendor X, that's it, right? Whatever they decided to automate, is what's going to be automated for your particular problems. That may or may not be what you need, right? So on one side, you have a data scientist who injects smart optimization methods, self-adjusting learning methods, own expertise, all sorts of cool stuff. So if on the other side, your vendor had this fantastic, smart data scientist or the team of data scientists that knew it all and covered it all, it may actually work pretty well on your side. Your own data scientists have suddenly nothing to do anymore. That may also not quite be what you want. On the other side, you then, on your side, essentially you have a business analyst who can't really provide domain knowledge anymore to steer that automation because it's built in, right? And you can't really adjust choices, which features with models. Often there is something that you know that could really help that process, right? But you can't because it's all automated. So it's read-only, really. That's the one thing I meant. But then you say, well, but I'm going to buy some really cool secret sauce. That should really make it, right? I mean, there's no way I could build this in-house. If you think about that, and if you know research, that field in machine learning, honestly, not really. Everything that's going on in these boxes is known. It's out there, right? It's just standard machine learning optimization type stuff, right? So for parameter selection, Bayesian optimization is one of these areas. It's actually pretty cool stuff from a scientific point of view because you're literally building a second model, and that second model will help you predict good parameter settings for your first model. But it's not very new, and it's definitely not secret. It's out there. Active learning, iterative model refinement, this idea of building a model, getting user feedback or getting feedback from something else and refining the model, it's out there. We've been doing that for 20 years. Active learning, there are new methods, there are variations of that, but that's not a secret either. Evolutionary methods for feature construction, other AI methods, there's a ton of stuff out there that you could use, right? So what you're really buying is not secret sauce, what you're buying is how somebody put that together. And then you're back to stage one where you say, well, how do I know that these people that I bought that tool from put it together the right way that actually solves for my problems? So what we really need, you wonder, can't we build this ourselves? Can't we build sort of automate as much as possible, right? But our own data scientists or our own expertise can still be made part of that, right? So you want it transparent. Our own data scientists can build, add to it, build it from scratch, depending on their level of expertise. And obviously, it should be interactive. In the end, when you run a fully automated analysis, you still need some sort of a user feedback, right? So the business users can inject their expertise. We can do that. We just had recently a blog post out there, and this sort of a KNIME workflow that's just a tiny bit more complex, but has sort of wraps the right pieces. And if you walk through that from left to right, you'll see we have some of these. You choose the data, and the gray, these meta nodes on the top part of the workflow, I call those interaction points for now. So those are the ones where we are going to interact with the business user to get some feedback. Either very simple stuff, that's the data I want to analyze, or more interesting stuff is this, that's a really silly cluster. You need to refine this a little bit more, right? So we have interaction points in this simple example where we, for the choosing the data, for the data cleaning, for user feedback during the learning part, the deployment options, and then maybe for the result, you even have some visual exploration here as well. Those are the pieces that we can automate. And we actually have 2,000 and something nodes in KNIME. They allow you to build these Bayesian optimization methods. They allow you to build active learning loops. We have active learning loops. Actually, in fact, if you really look at that one, this is a classic active learning loop, right? This setup, where you start at the beginning, you run an analytics algorithm, you get some user feedback. This could be anything from saying this is a weird cluster to, hey, I need a few more labels for data points, or give me feedback if this is the right attribute to choose. And then you just keep doing that. This is the classic loop context in KNIME until the user is happy with the analytics results. This is classic active learning, right, for iterative model refinement. It's been out there. We've had that in KNIME for quite some time. Okay, let's look into one of these interaction points. What happens underneath the hood? So we're picking the one for the user feedback. And in the way what's inside that meta node, ignore all of the connections. This is a fairly simple one. Most of these, besides a few, no, anyway, it doesn't matter. Here we go. Besides the yellow points that do a bit of data massaging, all of the other nodes are providing some visual component for that page that will ask for user feedback. Right? We have a bit of text output just to give additional information. We have a sunburst chart. We have a decision tree view. We have parallel coordinates view. We have a box plot. And then we allow some single selection and maybe a column filter so the user has some way of interaction. Right? And once you look at the view on that meta node, right, this is really encapsulated in the gray node. This is what it looks like. You have all of these components, how they are arranged as part of the configuration. But you're essentially programming visually with the normal KNIME workflow paradigm. You're putting together what that page will look like. So in the workflow in the KNIME Analytics platform, I see that as a view on the node. But once I deploy that to the server and run it through the web portal, it becomes one page in this stepping through these refinements, right? So this allows the data scientist to essentially say, this is the type of information I'm going to display, and this is the type of information, the feedback I need from my user to be able to refine the analysis. Once more, the workflow is not yet on the example server, but will soon be, and you'll see real-world, this is really more of a toy example to show some of the capabilities. You'll see real-world examples throughout the next couple of days. So guided analytics and all of this automated, driverless, whatever, AI, ML, whatever you want to call it, in a nutshell, is really automation can take out the drivers from their seats, right? Driverless AI, whatever. But the problem is, it also takes away the expertise. Once you take out the driver completely, you have no way anymore to access the business analyst's expertise. If you do that with guided analytics, you can automate the boring pieces. You can automate the hell out of all of this parameter optimization if you want to, choosing whatever technology you want to use for that one. But you can still keep the expert in the loop, and you can define precisely where you want the expert in the loop and where you actually need that expertise. Right? The key is integration really, really matters, right? Nobody has all of the pieces in place. Nobody has the complete platform for all of the data science, with all of the cool algorithms that somebody wants to use, with all of the cool interaction techniques that's what somebody wants to use, which is why we have all of these integrations, right? We will never, ever have all of the machine learning libraries available in R and Python in H2O, for instance. That's why we're integrating with them. We will not build our own visualization routines. That's why we have integrations with a lot of these JavaScript libraries and so on, right? So on this note, integration matters. Let's go back to the next couple of days. Part of the integration is not only the community, the integrations that we are providing, but obviously also partners that we have. No, they have one more thing that was a nice tweet. It says, it's easy to build a new library. It's a lot more work to build a great platform. Thought it was neat. On that integration note, we have a lot of partners here that are partially, they are integrating their tools into KNIME, giving you access to yet more interesting functionality. Some of those add really cool expertise. They know specific application areas a lot in a lot more detail. We used to have a partner session where we introduced all of them. The problem is right now we have so many partners that this partner session, no matter how interesting each one of them is, it just drags on forever, right? It's almost an afternoon, so we just couldn't do that anymore. Those are the partners that are here. They're going to have a talk together with one of the users. They're going to have a table out there. You can talk to them. And then a couple of our other partners are just in attendance. If you do want to meet any one of those and can't find them in the 300 plus people that are in the room, talk to me or talk to Kilian. Where's Kilian? Kilian is over there. He's managing all of our partner relations. He will be happily making an introduction to those guys. Good. And well, running slightly over time, but Bernd is going to catch up. I'm not worried. Good. For the summit, we used to talk about how often people came, and we started to count that precisely, but now we're starting to just bucket that and clump it and bin it, because Jean-Christophe just keeps coming back. We can't really count that anymore. So we decided we are going to switch over to the system that the FC Bayern München is using. I know Christian's and Benjamin, where is he? His heart will now bleed because I'm not mentioning the VfB Stuttgart. The problem with the VfB Stuttgart is they don't win anything, right? Bayern München, on the other side, won so many championships that they ran out of stars, so they're now bucking this. Each star is 5 champions. That's what we are going to do as well. So Jean-Christophe is our KNIME double star. He has been to 10 or more KNIME summits. And then we have a couple of KNIME single stars that have been to at least 5 of our summits. This is great to see that there are so many people actually coming back. Very cool. Thank you. Good. The summit. I don't really want to go through all of the talks. There's a lot of really exciting content coming up. We have lots of interesting talks. One maybe worth briefly highlighting is the H2O and KNIME talk. Joe Fay is here from H2O and is going to talk about that together with Christian. But then there's cool talks. For those of you who know the Phil show at the end of today, Phil is on stage together with Katrin, Vincenzo, and Rosaria. I made it very clear to Phil I do not want any strange dresses on stage, and in particular, I don't want them to undress on stage. Right? So hopefully this will be safe, but you're warned. You have been warned. We have a great dinner lined up at Spindler and Klatt. It's a little bit further away than last year, so we need to have shuttle buses, but we'll talk about the logistics later during the day. The buses will pick you up. Don't be worried, we'll have return buses starting at 9 o'clock, so if you don't want to stick around too long, there's always going to be an opportunity to get back every 15 or 20 minutes or so. You're not going to be stuck there. Then on Thursday morning, we'll continue doing what we did last time. That seemed to be perceived very well. We'll have two parallel tracks on the life science side and for custom intelligence. Again, lots of really cool talks. And then the Thursday afternoon is again everybody together. And we'll have, of course, the keynote by Dean at the end of Thursday to sort of close out the main program. And then on Friday, just like in previous years, we have these workshops. You all probably signed up for some of those. If today or tomorrow you realize you want to go somewhere else, that's fine. But please let the registration desk know so that we have at least a rough idea about headcounts and anything. I'm very happy about the program. It's actually getting harder and harder to sort of pick the people that we think make a nice mix of programs. So if you were trying to somehow talk to us and get into the program, try again next year. This is great to see so much interesting content. It's really hard to make sure you pick something that looks like a nice, diverse overview of what people do with KNIME, the server and the open source platform. That's all from me. Thank you very much. And have a lot of fun over the next couple of days. I hope you enjoy something. If there's something that doesn't go to your expectations, is weird, or you have questions or problems, talk to somebody with a full orange badge. Those are all the KNIME guys. We're happy to help. Yeah, I can't help. I'm totally useless. Cool. Thank you very much, and we'll go to real content with Bernd.